Brussels School of Governance here at the VUB. Very happy to welcome you to the BSOG. My name is Harri Kalm. I'm a professor here at the school, and my great pleasure to be here welcoming you to this event.
Hello, people on the online. Do you hear anything?
Yes, we hear you.
We hear
Very
you.
good. Hello, Naoko. Now we astounded her, so good to see that our online audience is also there. Again, welcome to the One Market, One Registry event, hosted as a collaboration between Life for EPR Project and EPR Club. With these very short welcoming words, I'll actually hand over to Anita, the colleague with Teresa, who is actually organizing the event.
Thank you very much, Harry. Hello, everyone. So my name is Anita. I work at ACER Plus, Association of Cities and Regions for Sustainable Resource Management. We're also part of Life for EPR project and also host Secretariat of the EPR Club. Should we just change slides perhaps so we can... Sorry. We just wanted to, I'd also happy to welcome you in person and online to this meeting co-organized. Looking forward to the discussion on a complex and quite hot topic right now. So just for the agenda of today, we will have first presentation by Veronica Martinez, partner of Life for EPR project that has been particularly focusing on the concept of unified register. Then we will have a presentation by Alexander Goldberg from EAR, the German EPR registry for we, on the tools to tackle free riding in online marketplaces, and a presentation by CTO, the French PRO for packaging, on how to tackle free riding. And then we'll follow up panel discussion moderated by Teresa, and closing remarks. Just maybe a very brief presentation of the Life for EPR project. I'll go first then with the EPR Club. So the EPR Club, as I mentioned, is a platform hosted by ACER Plus. We hold the secretariat, but is a larger group of organizations. We currently count around 81 members, including local and regional authorities, PROs, NGOs, consultancies, and is a platform that exists since 2012. Meant to exchange, to foster exchange and debate around EPR related issues in Europe. And I think that's about all, and happy to co-organize with you guys this event.
Very good. And as co-organizers, Life for EPR project, so this is a life-funded EU project where we are doing basically two things. So we're looking into strengthening and harmonizing EPR systems in Europe, so focus on EPR. And we do, as mentioned, work on the registries, which is the key topic of today, how to actually make them more feasible, better coordinated, more transparent. That's what Veronica will be talking about in a moment. And then secondly, we are also comparing EPR systems across the entire EU, trying to create benchmarks, really ways to measure the performance of EPR systems and thereby create tools how we could actually make the EPR system as such better. That's a topic that is a little bit discussed as a second part today relating to the free riding issue that is on the second half.
Thank you, Harry. Just a few practical information before we start. If you have any questions, comments, reactions to the different presentations, use the Q&A box that will be monitored by our colleagues, and some questions can be also addressed during the discussion. We will be recording this meeting and releasing it, posting it in our Life for EPR, so our public YouTube channel. So by being in it, you agree to be recorded, and slides will be shared after the meeting with everyone. And now I will just briefly go through the panelists. Well, here they are. So the first panelist is Veronica Martinez from Fundación END, the Life for EPR partner that has focused on gathering inputs and coming up with a concept of a unified registry. So I'll hand it over to Veronica. Can you hear us?
Yes. Hi.
Hello. So floor is yours, Veronica.
Yes, perfect. I will share my screen. Uh, Can you see the screen? Full screen? Anita?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, perfect. Yes.
Thanks.
So, hi everybody. My name is Veronica Martinez, and as Anita has introduced me, I work in Fundación END. And today I will be presenting the work that we have been doing within the one of the tasks in the Life for EPR life project. And maybe my connection is a bit unstable, and Lucia will be here in case I need. She needs to go on with the presentation if my connection goes down. So let me, yes, Harry already introduced Life for EPR, but just to give few more words about this project, is a live project that lasts 24 months. It started in May 2025 and will end in April 2027. At the end, the main objective is to create an overview of EPR schemes across member states and improve the level of harmonization, mainly for EPR registers, and also build a stronger evidence on the environmental impact of EPR systems. Here you have the website of the project and you can see there more details. But also I would like to mention that one of the main outcomes of this project is to develop and test a pilot harmonized EU-wide EPR register. And this is what we will be talking today about this main outcome. Okay. Yes. Why do we need an harmonized EPR register? The current situation is that in EPR register are country and product specific. So it depends. A producer plays in the market a specific product in EU. It will have to register to a number of national EPR register based on the extreme EPR streams that the product has. For example, if it's a I don't know, a camera, a photo camera, it will have the camera as a electronic equipment. It will have the battery and also the packaging, and also in as many member states as this product is placed on the market. So overall, it will have, for example, in this example, one item, 3 EPR streams, and in 2 countries, for example, Spain and Italy, it will end up having to register these products in 6 different national EPR registers. And most of the EPR registers that we have seen so far, it has 2 main parts. One, the first one, that is where the producers are registered, where I say, okay, I'm a producer of this photo camera and I put cameras in the market, in the Spanish market. So I register as a producer. And then the second part, that is the reporting of the products placed on the market for under a different frequency. This also, the frequency depends on the national register. So over my presentation, you will see these 2 icons, one, the registration and the reporting. When we will be talking about the registration, you will see this card. And when I will be talking about the reporting of products placed on the market, is the other one, the green one. Yes, this is the current situation, how these 2 parts are done currently. No? So the producer register and report either directly by themselves via a producer responsibility organization or via the authorized representative. Yes, I can hear something. I don't know. And data verification is carried out by national registers of PRO. In the first part of in the left side, you can see the registration of producers. So the 3 ways, and then it goes to the national register. In the other side, you also have the reporting of products placed on the market. And at the end is, again, the 3 different options, goes to the national register. And in this case, there's also a European layer that is how the national register, they convert the data and send it to the Eurostat. Is following specific formats. It's the only thing that there is at the EU level. It's in the Eurostat. And one important thing is that the registration of producer happen once, it's a one-time exercise for producer unless it requires, there is, I think, one register that I don't remember where that it needs a continuous update, but most of the cases is a one-time exercise, and unless there are some changes in the producers, it doesn't need any change. While in the reporting of products placed on the market, it's a regular exercise carried out by producer or a representative with a frequency asked by the specific national register. Then, the link between the EPR national register and PROs. This is also important because often producers join the PRO to fulfill the EPR obligations collectively. There are also the cases of individual systems, but as far as we know, these are exceptions. No? The most common situation is that the producer use a PRO to fulfill this obligation. When the producer use the PRO, they report the products placed on the market to the national register and also to the PRO. The issue is that the PROs need this information to calculate the EPR fees. And this happens for every country, no? Producers, they need to report the amounts placed in each country. Often PROs offer the service to register and report products placed on the market on behalf of their producers to the national registers. And with this service, if the producer take this service given by the PRO, at the end, what it happens is that the producer only provides information to the PRO, and the PRO it afterwards convert this information to the needs of the national register, but at the end, the producer only reports once, no, one per year, or based on the frequency of the. So it doesn't deal with the registration and reporting to the national register. So here is important that even if the objective of this exercise and this task, it was to harmonize the national registers, there's also an issue. This doesn't deal with the harmonization of the PROs and the data structure that the PROs needs to calculate the co-fees, the PRO fees. And this is important to mention in here that our focus, it was mainly on the registration and the reporting to the national registers. Then what happened while we were working on this task, we saw that the producer faced some problems when reporting and registering these national registers. In some cases, I mean, there's a report that you have more details about the specific barriers, but overall there are three mains. One related to the information barriers and the difficulties to access this information. Other relates to these fragmented national requirements that they ask for different things based on the country where the products are placed on the market, or also within the same country, you can find different requirements depending on which EPR stream you are reporting. And there are also some cross-border compliance challenges. The type and intensity of these challenges that each producer faces vary based on the producer size, sector, and market operation. But what we could see is that the cross-border producers face additional administrative burden due to the limited harmonization across member states. The issue is that we don't know, and this is outside the scope of this project, the number and share of cross-border producers active in the EU market. And then it's difficult to size the scale of the problem. So we know that there is a problem with the lack of harmonization, but we don't know how many producers are affected by this problem. So the issue is that while we work on the harmonization, we will need to change some procedures of producers that maybe they are not affected by the lack of harmonization. So we were all the time thinking, okay, how big is this share of producers, so that by changing the current procedures, we are not affecting people that are not affected by the problem. No, so this was challenging in this point. Then I also, at the end, during this presentation, we will show you the concept that it came out from this task, that it was developed using co-creation. at the end, we wanted to listen what the different stakeholders related to the EPR register wanted, what their experience, what the limitations that they're facing currently, and how they could see the harmonization possible. No, which things could be harmonized and which things could not be harmonized because they need to be different because they serve for different purpose. No? So we did a series of co-creation. The first one, it was with national register authorities. The second one was with market actors here, including PROs, Association of Producers. Then after these first two, we did the first session with the Commission, where we were discussing with them the main results of the first two, and they also provide us with some inputs. Afterwards, we had an internal session with the advisory board of the project. And after this, we came with the last co-creation session that it was with all the participants of the previous session. So it was a mix of stakeholders. And then after the fourth session, we realized that we needed to give more time to the participants of the sessions to reflect on the different options and also to talk together within the companies or entities to give a more elaborated response. So we sent an online survey, and I think we gave 2 weeks to reply for them. And the results were also considered in the concept development. And then the final session that is today, where we are presenting this concept. Oh, sorry. Yes, so while here we were trying to gather the opinion of the main actors involved in all this reporting and registration of EPR, it's also important to say that at the end, it was the consortium who ended up selected a concept. And this selection was mainly to use, we used this criteria for the selection. One, it was to reduce the burden and disruption while distributing simplification benefits. So here we were thinking that it was important to know that there are producers that are not affected by the lack of harmonization because they mainly produce and place products in one member state. So if we harmonize and change all the systems at national register, they will be affected by the changes. So it will be a lot of people affected by the change. It was also important that while we were trying to harmonize processes and try to simplify all the procedures, we also, it was super important to preserve the national verification and enforcement of the national register, because at the end they are asking for a lot of information, but it's because they need to monitor the enforcement of the EPR obligation, no? And also, well, the third criteria is that we align with supported principle and address key stakeholder concern. There were some red lines that it was really clear that the stakeholder didn't want to change, or the change should be minimal, no? And with these 3 criteria, we then ended up choosing one concept that is the one that I will introduce you today. The name that we have given to this concept is EU Life for EPR Registration and Reporting Gateway. And it includes 3 main modules. The first module is what we call EU EPR Information Hub. This one it's a centralized information point for EPR related information across EU. The second module is the part of the register that deals with the producer registration. And the third one is the reporting of products placed on the market. All the 3 of them, they are included in this concept that we call registration and reporting gateway. And I will explain them in detail in the following slides. Then also it's important that to see that the scope of this concept is marked here in the blue box. It's important, it's super important to understand that there are some compliance steps that are to be done before the concept is used. And this relates to the fact that we don't deal with the contracts with the PROs. We don't deal with the appoint of contract of authorized representative. These are 2 steps that has to be done before entering into this tool. So the first thing to do when when a producer start placing a product into the market, the first thing would be if they want to follow, use the PROs to collectively fulfill their obligation, it will need to look for a PRO in the country where they place the products on the market, and then also if this they place products in the market in a foreign, in a member state where they are not based, and if the national register requires, they will need to appoint and contract an authorized representative. What is important also to mention is that the first module that we are here showing, the EU EPR Information Hub, can help on these 2 steps, because the idea there, I will explain you later, is that there will be some easy access information. For example, you could find all the PROs operating in this country for these streams, or all the authorized representative for this member state, all kind of information that can support these first 2 steps, but the overall concept doesn't include these 2 steps, okay? Then after there is the contract with the PRO, the appointment of the authorized representative when needed, then there is the module of the producer registration using a common EU registration format with a single data entry. And this registration data will be submitted only once, and the data will be distributed to the national registers. As you can see, after this step, there is an activity happening outside the gateway. That is where the national registers receive the producer registration information, and after verification, provide a unique registration number to the producer. We will talk about this afterwards. What is this unique registration number? But following into the 4th step is, once the producer has the unique registration number, can start the reporting of products placed on the market. And in here, the concept includes a dual approach, like for an hybrid, what we call hybrid approach, that the producers will be able to choose between 2 routes of compliance, of reporting. The first, so it could choose between reporting through national routes as done currently with the current modus operandi for reporting, or choose the first option, that is the reporting, the standardized route for reporting. And this I will explain you later, but in this case it will be a single data again as the registration. And after these 2, after the reporting, again, the national register receive the products placed on the market reporting and converts the information into their own data structure using the conversion codes. When the producer use the current modus operandi, they don't need to convert anything, because the national register already gets information in the format that they need, that they require. I will explain this thing of the conversion codes afterwards. Yes, so in the first module, that is the EU EPR Information Hub, it is, as I said, a centralized information point to improve the transparency and accessibility of EPR-related information across EU. It can help, it's a single EU information hub. It can help compliance checks, also support tools like, for example, help desk or fax hotlines to guide the producers. Also, public transparency, because it can also be accessed by all type of multi-stakeholders. And the level of detail given for each actor, it will depend on the role. So, for example, compliance authorities will have higher details than a consumer that wants to see if this producer is registered in a member state. It is also important to mention that this hub will be fed by the information provided by the national registers. It will provide selected and up-to-date standardized information at the EU level to the hub. This is the first module of the concept. Then the second module, it's what it's called, is the producer registration step. And here Let's imagine that we are a producer of a mobile phone and we place this mobile phone in 3 member states. Then here what we propose is that the producer will be able to bulk upload of the registration information in the different countries where they play. So in this case, there are 3 countries and 3 streams. There will be some common fields, but some that will apply to them. For example, imagine that member state 1 is Spain and the batteries, but then you will have to say there, I have this PRO and I have this authorized representative. Then after this bulk upload of information into this EU platform, there will be some validation step. There will be the validation of the authorized representative and also the validation of the information of the PRO. No, at this point, we will need to say the PRO have to say, okay, yes, it's true. I have a contract with this producer for these EPR streams. And after these validations of the registration information, there's the signature and submission to the national register by an appointed party. It can be the authorized representative, the PRO, or also the producer that could also, after the validation, it could be also that is signed and submitted by the producers. After this, the national register gets the registration information, and they will be able to follow the same step as they do now. Here, it's important that in this module, in the EPR, in the producer registration, after the submission to the national registration authorities, they will these authorities will be the responsible of reviewing and verifying the producer registration information in line with the national requirements. And there will be after the validation process a submission, or it will be this authority will issue a national registration number to the producer. At the end, this unique registration number, it will serve to say this producer is registered properly in this country as producer of these EPR streams. And it will help, it will identify the producers. And the thing is that using a common approach, all countries could see in which country is this producer registered and for which streams. It will follow an harmonized, it will provide an harmonized identification to based on the member state where they place products on the market and the EPR stream where they are registered for. It also will help to reduce to help because currently the registration numbers provided by the national registers are really heterogenic, so we cannot use these numbers to identify a producer. And it will also support the cross-border check and compliance follow-up. This number, or this unique registration number, we will assess it in the pilot phase of the project. I will explain you afterward what we will do in the pilot. But it should be a single stand number. We will work on this number after. I will explain you afterwards what we will do with this. Okay, and in the third module is where we report, when the producer reports the products placed on the market. Here, as I said, we use an hybrid approach because also we are not sure, it is unknown, the size of the problem and how many producers are only producing and placing products in one market and how many are cross-border producers. So here what we propose is to use these 2 routes of reporting. One, it will be the current model, the blue flow is the current modus operandi. And what we propose is to have a parallel route that is a standardized single entry data route. What we expect this route to be chosen by cross-border producers, but also new local producers, and it will use a EU common reporting forms and a single entry point. It's also important that this hybrid approach only applies to long-established national registers. So EPR streams, so national register that has been used for long periods. So there's a lot of producers already using their approach. But for national registers that should be built for new EPR streams, you don't need to put the two routes. It will be enough to have the single entry data at the EU level. And then the issue of having these two routes is that afterwards, so the national register will receive the information from two sets, and then they will need to convert and use in the existing database. The important thing is that the single entry data at EU level is done in a way that it can be converted into the national register reporting formats. Yes, so again, using the same approach, the same icons as before, if we are producer of mobile phone placing the products in 3 member states, we will also have this. Here is only the root of the harmonized one using a single data point. The business as usual row, we don't show it here because it stays as now. But if we take the root of the products placed on the market reporting, we will do it like this. So again, the producer or a representative make the bulk upload of reporting information using the EU harmonized reporting form. So there will be some common fields, but there will be also some fields that apply for batteries in Spain, for batteries in Italy, whatever. No, once this upload happens, the PROs check reported data and communicate with the producers if needed. This is in case the producer use a PRO. Otherwise, it will be also the authorized representative that also should check this information. Then also, of course, the PROs can only see the information reported by their own producers. This also is in the step of the registration, in the producer registration step. When you say which PRO I'm using in each, there will be some permit granted to these PROs to check. And after the PROs verifies the reporting information, then the appointed party will be able to sign and submit the information to the national registers. Then again, so after this, the national register will follow the current steps to check the compliance. It's also important that what we can see here is really important that in the platform we have like the data status of each information. We can see, for example, when the upload of information by the producer or a representative, we will have different status. It could be in progress, ready for verification, for correction, if the PRO found a mistake or corrected. Then also the PRO in the step, it could be for PRO verification, under verification, or ready for signature. And afterwards, it will be ready for submission or submitted to the national registers. And then also it will appear as a for national register verification or verified by the national authorities. Sorry. It's also important to mention that all this information could be submitted to the national registers as a really detailed form, because I will explain you this. And this detailed form, it has to be done. The issue is that if we want the national register to be able to maintain the current data structure, and this is the case because we are using an hybrid approach, so we want them to keep. So they should be able to integrate both data formats. All the information provided by the producers in this step will be given with a level of detail needed to be able to maintain the data used by the different national registers. It could be that the platform convert give the information to the national registers in a highly detailed format, the same as the used by the producer. Or it can be that if we add in the tool the conversion factors to convert the detailed information of the EU form to the national register, the specific national register, it could be that the tool also send information to the national register already converted in their own data structure. I will explain you what I mean here with these convertible codes and conversion factors. The issue that what we could see is that now national registers and PROs also use mainly for the product categories a really heterogenic set of codes, let's say. The idea is that if we want these data structures to be maintained, what we need to ask the producers is to report the data in a way that afterwards this can be converted to what the national register and the PRO data needs. This means, for example, if the PROs needs this paper colors are like, imagine that the pro is using the colors to classify, while the national register are using shapes. So at the end, we will need to ask the producers to report on colors and shapes to be able to afterwards convert the information to the data needs of the PROs and the national register. Here we can see, I mean, in this figure, we are showing the difference between PROs and national register, but in reality also, if we look into the different national register data, there's also a huge difference between them. So the issue is that we need to take into account how the national registers are currently reporting, the reporting categories, to be able to ask to the producers to report in a way that we can after convert to what they need. Here is an example. No? Imagine that we are placing in the market a cooling equipment and we need to do the reporting. So imagine that the PRO A is using the categories A, B, and C: temperature change, air condition appliance, appliance with oil and oil in circuits or capacitors. While the national register 1 is using the category 1E, 2Es, and 3Es. Sorry. So the thing is that we will need to enter the information in a series of 9 categories for afterwards be able to convert. No, in the case of the PRO, they will need to say from 1 to 6 and A, it will be considered A by the PRO A. While the 7 will be considered B and the 9 will be C. And the same for the national register 1. If it has these 3 categories, so we'll need to say, okay, the first category, the 1 to 7 is considered category 1, the 8 is considered 2, and the 3 is and the 9 is considered 3. So we will need to use these conversion codes. Important here is to mention that the definition of these convertible codes is not part of the Life for EPR project. It will require an extensive study on how existing codes used by national register and PROs for every country and every EPR streams. But we see that it's feasible and is necessary if we want to harmonize all the reporting. Yes. So then also what we could say, I hope I have time to go into the complementary measures, is that while I've been talking about the concept and the 3 modules that we see that they are needed at this point and that it will be included in the concept, we could also yes, Anita.
Sorry, just to let you know, if you could speed up this last part so that we have time to present for reactions to your presentation. Thanks.
Yes, okay. So then I will skip this, but I mean, afterwards you can see in the presentation the complementary measures and also the priorities given for all these complementary measures in the survey, in the online survey that I mentioned. Yes, next step, really fast, sorry. So now we have the concept, this idea. Then we are developing now the mock-up of the concept. Afterwards, there will be the programming of this concept with the pilot web tool, that this will be done by Sotelo, is another partner of the project. And we will do, once we have a fair version of this tool, we will run the test with this pilot with some stakeholders, and this test will be led by Erion. And after the initial testing, we will be able also to modify the tool based on the feedback from the testers, the real testers. And that's all from my side. Yes. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Veronica. And we keep some time at the end for questions and comments and reactions to your presentation. Thank you so much for sharing the outcome of this long and complex process. I'll now hand it over to Alexander. So the floor is yours, and thanks a lot again for being here with us and providing the perspective of EPR register. We cannot hear you, Alexander. But we could hear you before, so still not. Okay. Information that we just received. Yes, yeah, I see he connected again. So let's just check whether. Is it on? Oh, yeah, I was speaking. Alexander, can you hear us? Are
Can you hear
with
me now?
us? Yes, we can.
Oh,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thanks for. Thanks.
I don't know what happened, but now we start. So you should see now the screen.
We do see. Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Thanks.
Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation, and sorry for the digital problems that just occurred. So now I'm talking about tackling free riders in online marketplaces, and I'm looking forward to the discussion afterwards, especially about this European approach for what Veronica just presented, because I think this is quite very interesting, where we find some ideas and where we have probably some discussion ahead. Okay. Let's look into this, where we started with the first WE directive in 2002. Under the national transpositions, there was a broad varieties of transpositions because, of course, all the member states really had to practice, I would say, with this new law, how to deal with it and how to transpose it into legal aspects. And so in terms of producers that were not established in member state where they placed equipment on the market, some of the member states, they asked for a presence, a legal presence in this member state in order to register, report, or take back the WE. Other member states, for example, also said, okay, you can be compliant even if you're abroad and not established in my member state. During this time, online sales increased drastically, and so especially the cross-border sales within the EU, they went straight up, and we all know where we are now. As a result, with that, we had no harmonized approach in common. We had no possibility to enforce free riders when they were not established in the member state where the equipment was placed on the market. And what we saw was the figures of free riders increased, I would say, dramatically. And especially these are those doing online sales and that were not established in the member states, as mentioned. And this especially led to a high frustration of the compliant producers in the member state that had to pay for the orphan waste that arose from all the WE that arose from the free riders from abroad. So just to give you an idea how this looked like from end of 2005 until the end of 2014, the registered producers in Germany, we had about 4,100 when we started. And in the end of this period, it was about 12,700. So it's not a huge increase, but I would say for starting a new system, quite something. With the V2, we had two aspects. First, we introduced in the V2 the authorized representative, which will come a little bit later too. And we had in the German transposition under the V2 this section 6, paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 that I wanted to point out here. So we put in this section 6, paragraph 1 that a producer that places EE on the German market has to, or if he's not established, his authorized representative register with us before he places the equipment on the market. This is like a law that is enforced, and this is an obligation that he has to fulfill. Under section 6, paragraph 2, especially sentence 2, we have a sentence saying if the producer or the authorized representative is not or not properly registered, it has consequences in terms for the operators of electronic and marketplaces because they are not allowed to offer or provide EE from this producer. So they have a clear obligation to block them on the website or not let them on their website. And also fulfillment service providers must not perform the warehousing, packaging, addressing, or shipping in relation to EE from such a producer that is not registered or not properly registered. What was the outcome? As you could see here, continuing the last graph, we have from the end of 2010, we had about nearly 9,800 producers. Then you see the brown dotted line that was towards the end of 2015, the introduction of the authorized representative for producers abroad not established in Germany. So we had a steep increase in the numbers, like a doubling from 13,000 up to 26,000. And this was in the beginning of 2021 when this new law came into force, where the online marketplace or the fulfillment service provider had to check the proper registration of his customer. This was announced in January 2022, and there was a transitional period until the 1st of July 2023. And you can see we are up now to nearly 70,000 producers that are registered. So what can we see? Just to give you a little sum up of all this, with the AR and also the introduction of this new law clearly putting an obligation on the online marketplaces or the fulfillment service providers, there is this combination that really boosted the numbers of registrations or registered producers. It decreased the free riders. And as you can see today, 68% of the producers that we have registered in Germany for WE fulfill their obligations through an AR established in Germany. This means also with a little sidestep to the omnibus legislation that was going on, this is just like a wipeout if you would really get rid of all these AR obligations and possibilities for enforcement. And it restored the level playing field because now the compliant numbers of producers increased. And I would say, and this is also what the national registers say in EWN, the AR is a success story and we should not really get rid of it. We should intensify it and have clear rules on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Straight to the point. And thanks for sharing a bit about the German context. Very interesting to hear also your perspective on the AR. I think this is also an ongoing debate, very up on the agenda at the moment of the European Commission as well. So we'll take some comments and reactions and questions afterwards. I'll now give the floor to the last speaker. Last speakers, I think will be Anissa and Ulisse from CTO, PRO for packaging, sharing their presentation with us. Can you hear us? Can you speak up, Anissa and Ulisse?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can with an echo though.
Sorry, we are two in the same room, so it created
No,
an
it's
echo.
fine.
Is it better now?
Yes, it is. We can see you also, so if you
Great.
want to share your screen and take the
Yes,
floor, welcome to.
absolutely. Yeah. Okay, can you see my screen now? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Great. So, well, nice to meet you, everyone. So I'm Manisa, and I'm the business development manager for CTO. So I'm in charge of the free riding subject for our PRO. Before I start jumping into the subject, I wanted to just summarize a little the context in France, just so that everyone has an idea of the situation. So the household packaging EPR scheme has been existing for over 30 years now, and CTO is the first one that the French historical PRO that has been created, and the first one in our scheme. And today we have about 97% of the market share, and we have 2 other competitors for our scheme. We have about 200,000 companies that are currently registered with a PRO for packaging, but it's very important to have in mind that we don't absolutely exactly know what is the current market sizing and the exact number of free riders. It is very hard to know because we have several challenges to determine that. The first one is that we are in a worldwide economy, obviously, with a fast development, especially in the e-commerce industry, and the big volatility of e-vendors. We have a lot of company creations, company terminations, etc., and changes a lot from one year to the next. The second one is that we could not even rely on a national database to define a French market share. At least it could help to have a national vision of the market, but it's not enough to know who is exactly concerned or not by EPR, because some of them are only doing B2B sales or export sales, or we don't know the impact of imports or exports, etc. And we have also, that is also important to know, a lot of companies blaming one another for the EPR responsibility. And it's up to us to determine who is exactly legally responsible. So that's the challenge that we have. Considering that, we have implemented in 2022 a national registry called CDREP, which came with the new obligation for marketplaces to declare with PROs, like in Germany, in which we could see for third-party vendors who sold through marketplaces who was actually compliant or not with EPR. And this compliance status was possible through what we call a UIN, a unique identifier number, which was available publicly in this registry for the companies which were indeed compliant. And this registry was also useful for PROs, actually, because if, like for us, we are in a competitive situation, it was the opportunity for us to know who are the clients of the other PROs on our same scheme. But there's something very important to have in mind. It's that a UIN only means that a company is registered. It does not mean that they provide their annual declaration, nor that they pay their eco contribution to a PRO. So, which means that each year we have many new clients who fail to declare. When I say declaration, sorry, I mean the POM reporting. We call it declaration, just to be clear about that. So each year we have many new clients who fail to declare and or pay their contribution, which means that after a year or so, we terminate their PRO contract because they failed to respect their contract, obviously. And in this case, their UIN becomes inactive. But it takes up to 1 year, 1 year and a half to make this UIN inactive, but in the same time, during 1 year and a half, they have used this UIN, especially with their marketplace, even if they have never paid anything to their PRO. And that's something very important to have in mind. So now, what is the information included in the registry exactly? Well, at the moment, what we have is the company national registration number. So what your country would provide to you as a national number, registration number, or if the company is European, your VAT. The country of origin, the company name, and the EPR schemes that concern the company. If you are concerned by 3 schemes or 3 streams, you have 3 different UINs. This information is quite basic and it's not always sufficient to identify free riders, and it's very important to have that in mind. And also on a side note, I want to say that it's already a challenge for PROs to maintain this database up to date. It would make it much easier if we had an API that set the information automatically, but it's not the case at the moment. So we need to create the data and then keeping it up to date. Now, the information that is missing from a company, and that could be useful for us in the registry. Well, first of all, the brand name, because a company name doesn't mean that you know what are the brands hidden behind the company name. And this would certainly make it useful to identify free riders. The website, also another way of identifying them. A list of branches of franchisees or sisters companies covered by the contract. This is very, very important because especially for large groups, so big companies, they have many, many different legal entities, and you could identify one of these entities but not the rest, and they may already be compliant through another company. And the contract start date, and I would say even start and ending date, because a contract may be active at a certain date and become no longer active right after the data has been downloaded if we have terminated that contract and request for the UIN to be made inactive, for example. And a declaration and payment compliance status, obviously. So this additional information would make it easier for PROs to accurately identify either the actual free riders or the companies which are already covered by a contract, which can be sometimes wrongly identified as free riders, but they are actually complying through another name. Now, what are CTO's responsibility regarding free riding? So we have the obligation in France to tackle free riding each year through campaigns, okay, about EPR awareness towards free riders that we have identified as such, with an obligation of means. So that means that we need to send letters, for example, and prove that we have sent letters. Prior to each campaign, we obviously make sure that the company targeted is not already. Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought someone spoke. In possession of a UIN, thanks to the registry. After 30 years of existence, and as I said, we have 90% of the market share, and we have all the major companies that sell in France. We have switched the way we operate free riding campaigns. Now we hold free riders targeted campaigns with few free riders, but that represent potentially big contribution rather than dealing with a mass approach. And why do we have this approach? First of all, because explaining the EPR is very, very complex and generic letters are not sufficient. It takes a lot of time to customly answer free riders, let them know, let them understand what it means, what packagings are concerned, who is responsible, and answer all the confusion questions that they can have. So those discussions are really necessary to secure a registration with us. And it's very important to understand that small companies take as much time as big ones. And that's why we decided to target big ones rather than small, because we don't have a lot of resources to answer everyone. So we try to have an ROI strategy and target the biggest ones. And also, on a side note, the challenge is even harder in a competitive situation like the one we have, because when we hold a campaign, it's not always well received by the company, which sometimes ends up choosing the other PRO and not us. Still on this responsibility subject, what happens after we hold these campaigns? Well, for those who still are not in compliance, we have to select a few of them and report them to the public authorities. And each free rider file is very time consuming. Thus, we have to make a strict selection and we can't report everyone. so far, unfortunately, the public authorities have not been providing much feedback to us for the way they handle each file and if they decide to take further legal actions or not, apart from a few individual cases quite recently. And several challenges arise about this. The first one is that it is up to us to provide an estimation of the missing contribution based on factual figures, which is not at all easy, because the public authorities need to be reassured about the accuracy of the information estimated in order to move forward with any further action. And they will only do so for a high minimum of estimated contribution, like about 100 tons of packagings per year, which is a lot, and which means that small and medium companies will always remain under the radar because no action will be done by the state. And another tricky situation is that they basically told us that they won't pursue any legal action with foreigners, as our national courts don't have the competency to apply a legal ruling abroad. And plus, it's even harder to estimate their sales in France. So yeah, that's also something to have in mind. To illustrate all this, I wanted to share very quickly an example of action that has been done in 2024. I can't do it for 2025 because no action has been done by the public authorities, I guess. We haven't heard at all about it, whereas in 2024 they have. So we sent 34 files, among which they have sent 22 letters, among which 14 companies have reacted, 8 memberships have been done, and 3 legal actions with actual financial penalties have been done. So as you can see, there's like 10% of all the files that we have submitted that actually got an action, and 8 memberships, not only with our PRO, but also with the competitors. It's important to have that in mind. And so as a conclusion of all this, what I can say is that even the public authorities' actions are not miraculous because it doesn't bring us 100% of compliance, but it certainly helps. And so what we really want is to engage them more in the subject of tackling free riders. And that's it for me.
Thanks a lot, Anissa, for sharing a bit more about the challenges linked to free riding in France. Seems like there's a lot is being done, but also a lot remains to be done, and challenges and companies that are still under the radar, like you said. So let's take this a step further in starting the discussion and a bit of taking some questions, comments from the audience as well. So I'll hand it over to Teresa to moderate this part.
Yes, thank you. I'm Jan Kemkes from Interzero, German EPR system. I have a question to Veronica. On the one slide where you showed the entry points, you said, okay, there are the PROs as the authorized representatives. Maybe it was just for due to clarification or due to simplification. We have some EPR systems where we have no pros in place where it's done individually. So that's something I just didn't, you didn't mention it just in the beginning. That's something I think that should be added into the scheme as well. That's the one thing. And then I can just support what Alexander said. The AR is one of the important measures we have. And unless nobody else has any better idea, we shouldn't abandon it just to get rid of it. And I'm not always quite clear why it should be easier to select an EPR scheme than to select an AR. So what's the simplification in there? And the second thing is I also can say we would like to see a simplification more in the way how to select an AR. because that's in some countries rather hard, and it's not so easy to get an AR, and it would be easier to get an PRO contribution. But if you make it easier to appoint an AR, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Yes. Can I reply? Can you hear me? Yes, yes,
Hear
yes.
you very well.
Yes, yes. Sorry that I had to rush in my presentation. I would like to share back the slide. I think that he mentioned. Let me share it again. So the idea here, you can see my slide. Yes. Yes, so you have this way of reporting or registering currently. It has the three, there is the producer with individual system that register directly or report directly to the national register. You have the option with doing this with authorized representative when needed, or via PRO, producer with PROs that can, even if they have PRO, they can report directly or go through the PRO. Yes, and this thing that you were saying also, well, I think that this replies to the first question. Yes, if I understood correctly, the question, this was no. I also wanted to say that within the complementary measure that I didn't have time to explain, there is this need of harmonizing the procedures to appoint an authorized representative. This was an important issue, and so this is a complementary measure that should be done. And also the issue is that within the first module of the concept, the EU EPR information hub, there could be a list of authorized representatives per country. So authorized representatives that are operating in per member state, so it's easier to find who can work and operate as authorized representative in each country and for each stream if there are differences in the EPR streams. So even if we don't deal with this in the concept, we aim to facilitate the identification of possible authorized representative, and also a complementary measure that we won't be able to work within our task is this thing and this need of harmonizing the procedures for authorized representative. This is my reply. I don't know if Alexander or Vanessa wants to add something on this matter.
If not, I'm happy to take more questions from the audience in the room before I move on to online. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Antoine Hateme here from Lighting Europe, and I represent lighting producers. So as a producer association, I was a bit curious, maybe again, a bit more for you, Veronica, when discussing this more granular data, that producers would have to provide. Did you get any feedback from producers? Were there any complaints? Because from my perspective, as I understand it, it seems like it wouldn't be a big amount of work for producers, and it would make PRO's life easier. But yeah, I was just curious to know if there were any producers that were a bit less motivated by this idea.
Yes, I can explain you how it went, the procedure, because at the beginning, in the first co-creation sections, we were talking about detailed data or high data granularity and simplified approach. But in the simplified approach, we were saying, okay, the European Commission will have to say which are the product codes that we need, and then everybody has to accept this and start changing their system to these new categories. And when we were talking about detail and simplifying, there was a reaction of part of the audience going to, okay, let's simplify. No, but when we started describing that the issue is that we need more granularity, but the end is to harmonize. I mean, we need more granularity to be able to use the data for different purposes and in different places, no? So the idea is that if we give more the data into more categories, so that everybody can still work how they work currently, and only there was also an issue of how many times they need to send the same pieces of information. So if we are saying, okay, we will have to you will have to submit the data, upload the data more granular with higher level of granularity, but only once, and then the data will be distributed to the different parties needing this information. We start seeing that the people were more agreeing on the approach, of delivering more granular data, but only once and not duplicating this information. But yes, at the beginning, in the first session, I remember that there were some reticence on more detailed information because the people, what they were asking is more simplifications. Yes, but for harmonizing, we need to, I mean, we cannot go for a less granular and keep people using the data equally, So the only way is to go for more granularity, and then so that we can convert this information afterwards to the needs of each partner. And the conversion factors are really important in this step.
Thank you so much, Veronica. I'm now summarizing some of the questions that came up in the chat. I think if you already covered, which is great. Some questions that were repeatedly asked are about who covers the cost of setting up the registration and reporting gateway, and who will govern it, and how to ensure data protection and prevent data breaches.
Yeah. This thing at this step, we have not defined it yet. I mean, we were focusing on defining a concept that could work, and also that more or less most of the parties were at least satisfied and not too unhappy for the changes. We didn't define yet the governance and the cost. I cannot tell you this right now. We will try to give you an answer in the next task of the project, but not now. I cannot tell you this now. So because we have not reached this point of discussion yet.
Thanks, Veronica. Yeah, there's a limit to every research project, I think. Any questions in the room to the other speakers? One at the back.
Yeah, I have a fairly straightforward question for Anissa. I noticed on your slide, Anissa, that it said for 2025, there were no actions taken by the public authorities in France. So I was just wondering if you can explain why not.
Yes, they have very recently changed the method of transmission of the information, and they used it as an excuse for not doing anything last year, saying we had to resubmit the information, which we did, but still nothing has happened. So we'll see. To be honest, it's very rare that we've had feedback from them, and in 2024 it was quite new and like first time we heard back. So I hope that they will continue on the same path and be as transparent as possible, because it creates a lack of equity that is unbearable for companies, obviously, and we need to show examples of sanctions, of penalties, to make the system legitimate and fair.
Thanks, Anissa. And on that note, you already mentioned some of the targeted approaches that you're taking against free riding, the targeted campaigns. To sum this up, what concrete solutions, legislations need to be put in place to strengthen the fight against free riding? And how could a harmonized EPR register at the EU level help this, or potentially also hinder this? Thank you.
Yes, about that, what we really need to do is to show that we are doing our best to guarantee an equity among producers. And in order to do that, we need to engage the public authorities more, as I said. To this date, as I said, filling up a file is very time consuming. We need to simplify the transmission of a list of free riders. And even if we don't have all the guarantees provided, because not all the companies publish their turnover, for example, we are not at all able to estimate sales. Even if we know that it's a big actor, we don't know how big it is, and this is an issue. And before taking legal steps, the public authorities could still have like an intermediary step, and just sending letters would help, because the subject would be taken more seriously than the letters that we do send as a PRO. Because just so you know, we are often considered as a service offering, like we're trying to sell the company something, which is not the case. And so if the state, if the government would take more action in this, it would make our action more legitimate. Yeah, and so about the second part of the question, I would say that having a harmonized register would make the information and made public also, and perhaps mostly known among the different parties, would help us all, because what helps in reaching our goal is the name and shame kind of situation. So if you know that publicly you are not compliant, then in this case, you probably would be more willing to become compliant. And if it is at the European level, where all the information is gathered at a same place, it would certainly help also with foreign companies as well. Yeah, that's what I could say.
And that just really galvanized Veronica and Alexander to react. Veronica, do you want to go first?
Yes. Thank you, Anissa and Alexander, because both of your presentations were super useful at this point for us when we came up with a concept. But I also wanted to ask to Anissa, because you mentioned that in France, the producer, when they register, they get UIN, no, is the registration number for France, and that even if a producer, or afterwards you get this number, and afterwards you declare or you report or not. And also that this thing that you were saying, that it can happen like between 1 year, I mean, that for these numbers to become inactive, even if they have not reported, neither paid the fees, why it takes so long to make inactive this registration number, that at the end is the only thing that we can see, no? Because I don't know if this number should be updated based on the reporting. I don't know how to make this time shorter, or that it's not, I mean, it should be a number with more information behind, no, saying if these producers is complying with the fee, is complying with the reporting. I don't know if you have an idea of how to improve this situation, because actually it's one of the issues that we were checking in the project, no, the French example.
Okay. It's very simple. When you register with us in, let's say, February 2026, your contract is retroactive to January of the same year. Okay. So, and we do annual declarations, which means that you won't have to do your yearly declaration before the beginning of the following year, January and February 2027. The deadline is February, but if you fail to declare, obviously we don't terminate the contract right away. We try to contact them and try to have them submit their declaration. So we call them several times, we send them letters, we tell them about the possible termination of their contract, etc. And we need to provide them as much time as possible, because some of them actually do submit their declaration at a later date. So that's why it can take up to 1.5 years, unfortunately.
Yeah, but this could be solved. So if the frequency of reporting were shorter, like for example, monthly, well, not least too much, but semesters, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, if we had to submit this idea internally, I don't think it would be well received because it's already a nightmare to gather all the 100,000 declarations of all our clients at a yearly basis. So if we had to do it every quarter, like it's the case for other EPR schemes, it would be much more difficult, especially considering that the packaging scheme is the most significant one. So we have more clients than the rest of other EPR schemes. So yeah, it would be hard. But yeah, I feel you.
Moving away from the reporting frequency, I guess Alexander wanted to come in on the harmonized EU register approach.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Lisa. Talking about this harmonized EPR register and how it could enhance tackling free riders, I would say there's only one benefit probably coming from that, and that is that we have a common approach with definitions on a European level where everybody could read and see what is happening. So the excuse of not being informed would really vanish. And I also say it's an excuse because nowadays we have an AR, and the AR is the translator for obligations in a member state for a producer abroad. So this problem theoretically should also already been solved. But I think this tackling of free riders, prosecuting them, also identifying the markets and surveilling them, this is a national level thing. This is done by professionals on a national level, EPAs, enforcement bodies, the registers, looking at the markets and reporting those to the enforcement bodies in order to have an enforcement. This would never, ever happen on a European level or have any benefit from a European register one step ahead. I'm just thinking about this loudly now. So I think this national enforcement, this is something that is so important and that we've seen in the past, which is working. If you would put this on a European level, this is just like leading nowhere.
Yeah, but I would like to clarify that this concept is not changing anything about the enforcement. I mean, it's only about where do you put your data, but afterwards, if you remember the limits of the system, is where the national register get the data.
Yeah, I've seen that,
And
but
then,
sorry, Veronica.
It was just to clarify this thing that at the end, the compliance, and it was a red line for us that we cannot change this. Yes.
I just have seen in your flowchart now that a lot of the data is directly and always going to the PROs, but in some member states and in some waste streams, it's also or only first going to the registers. So I think this has to be really taken into consideration as well, because the registers, they admit or at least allow the PROs to operate. So there is also data necessary that the registers receive in order to do their work, in order to scrutinize and prove if the PROs fulfill their targets and fulfill their obligations.
Yes. This part is also, so here is the part that we are reporting. So we are looking into the part of the register done from the producers registration and products placed on the market. There is another part also getting from for the registers and how the PRO reports to the national registers that is outside the boundaries of our assessment also. I don't know if you refer to this part. And also we put the example because with the PROs, they're verifying the information because in Europe, and I know that in Germany, there are some streams, there's no PROs, there are individual systems. But if you look at in Europe as a whole, the most common way of fulfilling the EPR applications is collected with the PROs. It's true that the system, the concept, is also working. We are also considering how a producer without a PRO will go through the different data flows, no? And if there is no PRO, at the end it will be the producer reporting, and then there should arrive to the national register, and the national register will be the one verifying and validating the information. That is how it is done currently.
And we have at the moment 7 member states where this reporting is carried out directly towards the registers in terms of the WEAM, and we have 13 member states where it's carried out to the PROs, and we have 7 where it's carried out to the registers or to the PROs. So we have a bunch of different colors and flowers here.
Yeah, but also this concept, what we were also thinking is that this bulk and reporting, this bulk uploading of information, both for the registration and for the reporting, can be done by different parties. It can be directly done by the PRO. It can be done by the PRO, so appointed PRO or the authorized representative. At the end is in the registration, we will need to define who has access to this data and who has the rights to sign, who has the right to validate. So this role definition has to be set in the registration and specified really clearly, because afterwards it will be the person or the users that would do these steps afterwards. But is important point what you mentioned.
I think we're all really enjoying your conversation. It's super interesting. There was 2 final questions in the room, I think. So if you could keep it short and address it to one of the speakers, and then we need to come to a close.
Yes, Jan Kemkes again. I don't have a question, I just have a comment, and I think we have one thing we should tackle about free riders, and we need absolutely more legal certainty and clarity here, because if there's discussion going on in the supply chain, who's the producer, then in the worst case, nobody is going to try to be compliant. And unfortunately, in the PPWR, it's like always, if you ask 2 lawyers, you get 4 opinions. And that's not something that's helpful for free riders, because also we are afraid that maybe the national authorities are saying, okay, what should we do if both point with the finger to the other one?
Maybe as the 5th lawyer here in the room, I'll get a further view. But I would actually like to go back to Alexander a little bit. I was curious on your comment about the importance of the national level and the unimportance of the European level, considering that so much of this is actually coming from outside of Europe. Would that not speak for actually having some European level commonalities or actions taken at that level as well? And then perhaps to both of you, very quickly, what would be for you the gold bulletin? What would be the next fantastic thing that one could do in actually tackling free riding? The one thing that you know that exists somewhere, or maybe just in your dreams, but we would be curious to, if you can just summarize that in one sentence, that would be fantastic.
Establish a obligation for all the platforms to check their customers before allowing them on the market. Having this in every member state would help with the AR in charge. And your other question about producers abroad, of course, they are from abroad, but I think the focus on the market, and the market is known to the national authorities. This is where I'm coming from. I'm not against Europe or anything, don't get me wrong, please. But I think we have to think which measure is having the best effect in doing so. And in enforcement, I think it's a national level that we have to talk about. The information on a European level is okay, but I think the enforcement, it's very hard if you have an authority, for example, established in Brussels, trying to enforce something in Cyprus or in Greece. This is not working.
Final comment from you, Anissa. What's on your wish list when it comes to free riding?
I would say 2 things. The first one is that we need to change the definition of a free rider, because currently a free rider is a company without a UIN. In a magic world, it would be a company which fails to do their reporting and paying their fees, because there are many of them, and a lot of them do half the job. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that to have legal penalties applied to those who don't play the game.
Thank you very much, Anissa, and everyone, actually. So we're wrapping up now, as we're already 30 past. Just thanking you all again for being here and sharing your perspectives, your insights, experience from the ground, actually, as you're all practitioners or researchers really deep into the topic of free riding and registries. And thank you to the participants. As we mentioned, we will be sharing the slides. And after the meeting, Also an invitation for you to sign up to the Live for EPR Expert Hub, which will be going on until next year, at least for a continuation of discussions, debates around EPR related topics, and also to stay updated on Live for EPR outputs and findings. So there's a link there to learn more and subscribe. And also the EPR Club, an invitation to check out our website to know more about what the EPR Club is and past and future activities. And also feel free to reach out directly to me to know more and also to check out our website. Yeah.